When it comes to survival or long-term wilderness living or whatever you want to call it, the number one tool that you've got in your toolbox is the knowledge to use whatever you find in your environment to your advantage. What we're going to do today is we are going to boil water with nothing but my knife. Well, my knife and some stuff that I can find in the woods. Now, right here behind me, I've got a young white pine that's been blown over. This tree is it's gonna die, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the bark to create a watertight container that we can then use to boil the water. So one of the qualities of the bark from these young white pines is that it tends to be very leathery, and so you can form it, you can fold it and bend it and make these watertight containers. So I'm going to start just by loosening some of the bark along this stem here. So we'll take this bark off, we'll make our container, then we'll make a friction fire, we'll boil some water. So it's springtime right now, the sap's flowing, and that's why the bark is slipping so easily on this tree. If I came out here later in the summer or the fall and tried to do this, it's just not going to work very good. And another thing, just a kind of a cool side note to this is, these trees transport sugar from the needles down into the roots. And so if you lick the bark, the inside of it, it's actually kind of sweet. And if you look in the mountains sometimes, you can see where bears are actually eating the cambium, the bark, the inner bark from some of these pine trees. All right, so we need something to pin the sides of our container to hold it together. So I'm just gonna make some little clothespin type things out of these sections of branches. And I've cut sections of branches that have these little whorls of smaller branches coming off, because right in this area, there's a real strong bond in there, so that'll act kind of as a stop for the split. If you cut just a section of clean wood and you try to split it, the whole thing's just gonna split, unless you take some sort of cordage and bind one of the ends of it. So I went ahead and got just a little bit bigger piece of bark. It's probably 14 by 16 inches or something like that. I'm gonna take the edge, fold it in so that I create little pleats like this, and then we can fold those over and pin them with some little clothespin type things that I've made. Just keep our knife in there to hold it open. All right, so we have got a container now that we can boil water in. Now you might look at this and say, oh, well, it's bark. Why wouldn't it just burn? And the answer is because there's water in it. You can actually boil water in a plastic bag or even a paper bag if it'll hold water. So this is an old dry elderberry stem, and blue elderberry just happens to be one of the best friction fire materials that we have here in North America. I'm going to make the fireboard out of this, and then I'll snap off another little branch to use as a spindle. So elderberry is a very good material for friction fire, but one of the problems if you're trying to start a hand drill fire is that it can sometimes be hard to find a spindle that's long and straight enough to use as a hand drill. And so what we're going to do is combine two different materials. I'm looking for something that I can use as the handle or the shaft for my spindle. And one thing that we do have in abundance that is long and straight are these ocean spray shoots here, which also happens to make very good arrow shafts. So one distinct feature about this elderberry is that the center is hollow. Basically, it's just filled with foam. And so if I whittle this down, I should just be able to stick this in there. I'm actually going to shorten this a little bit so that it's not quite so long and wobbly. Probably cut it in half. I'm just going to sit this in the sun for a little bit and let the stem kind of dry out a little bit. It's pretty green, but if it dries, it'll stiffen it up just a little bit. So I set the shaft, the little spindle end from the elderberry, and then also the fireboard out in the sun for a little while to dry. And when I tried to reinsert the shaft into the little elderberry spindle end, kind of cracked it right here. So I need some sort of cordage to bind this so that I can shove this shaft in there and keep it tight. And to do that, I'm just going to use some stinging nettle. This stuff is everywhere right now and it makes a very strong cordage. So we'll go ahead and peel the bark off this, or not the bark, but the outer layer of skin, and that's where all those fibers are. Alright, so we've got all our components for a hand drill friction fire. Now I did go ahead and pick up some dry grass, and again I set this out in the sun and the wind, and you'd be surprised at how quickly this stuff dries out. This is really dry. It's going to make good tinder after I fluff it up just a little bit more. So there's a few more things we need to do to the fireboard to get it ready. I need to start a little divot in here. I need to burn that out, and then I need to cut a notch. Now this video is not going to be an in-depth tutorial on friction fire. I'm going to direct you to another video. I'll put a little card down here somewhere, and then also put a link in the video description. And so if you want to know like the minute details about how to get a friction fire going with a bow drill anyway, and also applicable to a hand drill, check out that video. Alright, so we got a good fire going. Now I've got a couple of green sticks here that I just cut. Just lay those across and use that to support our bark container, and that is very hot. Alright, so while we're waiting on that water to boil, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. So pretty much throughout North America, and maybe even the world, there's squirrels. And squirrels make food caches, and if you know where to look, you can sometimes snag a little bite to eat. And I think I might have a lead on a good prospect over here. All right, so I think I've got a potential cache here. Now, a word of caution, these squirrels can be vicious, rabid, and it's definitely a life-threatening situation if I happen to stick my hand in there when there's something in the tree. So, just do a couple of knocks just to make sure there's nobody home. Now, again, word of caution, keep the knocks low. Last thing we want to do is bring in Sasquatch because he can be kind of a rude dinner guest. So, I think we're good. Gonna stick my hand in there and see what we can. Oh, I think we're in luck. Sweet, dude, and it's apple cinnamon. Yes, yes, dude. I think there's another one. Yeah. Woo. Look at this. This is like the mother lode. All right, I think that's good. We'll leave the rest for the squirrel. You know, winter's coming. He probably needs it. Let's go have some oatmeal. Dirt time, baby. That's how you learn that stuff. Got foliage. Well, it took a little longer than I would have liked, but it is boiling and it's rolling. I like it. Oh, no, no, no! My stick! That was almost a disaster. Saved the day. My green stick burned through, but I did save the water. Boom! Thank you, Mr. Squirrel. Yes. Sustenance from the wild. Delectable. You want some oatmeal? Sasquatch. No, dude. Go away. Not enough. Go find your own squirrel nest.